This is Land of Stories, Chapter 14, and I just thought I'd do a quick little review since it's been over a week since we read this book, second graders. They've hitched a ride in a cart, and they're in the Sleeping Kingdom on their way to ask Sleeping Beauty if they can use her spindle for the wishing spell. So we will start, and they are riding in the cart, and they've just arrived to the Sleeping Kingdom. The road turned away from the ocean, and the cart headed north into the Sleeping Kingdom. It was a very hilly place, surrounded by towering mountain ranges. It was a surprisingly dismal land, although the twins weren't sure what they had expected. All the fields were dry, all the trees were bare. Everything seemed like it hadn't been alive for a very long time. "Why is everything dead?" Connor asked. "I don't think they're dead," Alex said. "I think they're sleeping." Sleeping Beauty's castle was located in the center of a village called Sleepy Valley, and once the twins arrived there and hopped off the cart, they understood how it had gotten its name. The entire village surrounding the castle looked deserted. The twins found a man standing behind the open window of a bakery. He was resting his head on his hand and his elbow on the windowsill. He was sleeping standing up. Excuse me?" Alex said, not wanting to be rude and wake him up. "Yes?" the man asked with his eyes still closed. "Where is everyone?" Alex asked. "Resting," the man said with a yawn, and then began to snore. Sure enough, as the twins walked through the village, they could see many other shopkeepers and servants drowsily moving about inside the shops, slowly getting their work done. They all looked as if they were about to fall asleep any second. "I thought the curse on the kingdom had been broken," Connor said. "They don't seem to be sleeping because they have to. It looks like they're sleeping because they want to," Alex said. Alex and Connor walked through the sluggish town and found Sleeping Beauty's castle. The castle was a spectacular sight. It was the tallest structure the twins had ever seen. It was made from peach-colored stones, and its many tall towers soared into the sky, with the tallest in the very center. When the twins looked closely, they saw the residue left from the vines that had once grown up the castle wall. There were many gardens surrounding the castle, or at least there would have been if anything were alive. Gardeners slept in the gardens, still holding their tools. Every few minutes they would wake up and continue working, but they would fall back asleep almost immediately. There were guards everywhere, but the twins effortlessly walked past them. Every once in a while a guard would open an eye and consider saying something to them, but then decide to go back to sleep instead. They found the main entrance to the castle and entered. They walked down a long hall with a soaring ceiling that led to the throne room. It had white pillars and a checkered floor. The ceiling was painted the color of dusk, with vivid pinks and oranges. Guards lined the entire room, and they were all sleeping. Sitting on the throne ahead of them was a beautiful woman. She was speaking with two men. One was tall and handsome, the other short and old with a white beard. The woman wore a crown made of silver flowers and had long, flowing golden hair. She wore a thin gown, a shade of pale rose with matching gloves. The twins knew without a doubt it was Sleeping Beauty. She was speaking with a royal advisor and her husband, King Chase. She looked troubled and in a state of deep contemplation. She was tired, too, like the twins' mother looked when there was a lot on her mind. "Perhaps we should enforce a law. No sleeping allowed during the day," the advisor said. "Absolutely not," Sleeping Beauty said. "I will not force something on my people. Let us not forget this isn't their fault." "The curse is over, Your Highness," the advisor said. "It's time for the kingdom to wake up and see that." "As far as I'm concerned, the curse is upon us until the day this kingdom is how it was before the spell was cast," Sleeping Beauty said. "I may be awake, but being asleep for 100 years has taken a toll on them. They shouldn't be punished or held accountable for this." "Darling, you may have no choice," King Chase said, taking her hand in his. "The kingdom is falling apart. There are no crops being grown or business being done." "Let me think about this," she said, and let out a long sigh. May I make a suggestion?" Connor said, walking toward the trio. He took them by surprise. They didn't know anyone else in the room was conscious. Alex was a little scared. She had no idea what her brother was about to say. "Who are you?" the advisor asked. "I'm Connor, and this is my sister Alex," he said. Alex awkwardly waved from behind him. "You have a lovely castle," she said. "How did you get in here?" King Chase asked. "Seriously?" Connor asked him, pointing to the sleeping guards behind him. "This isn't exactly Fort Knox." "They don't know what that is, Connor," Alex whispered. "Young man," the advisor said, "with all due respect, this is a very important matter we're discussing, and we've been trying to find a solution for years and haven't come up with anything," Sleeping Beauty said. "So if this young man thinks he has an answer, I say we let him speak." The men didn't argue with her. Connor had the floor. "Have any of you heard of coffee before?" Connor asked. They stared blankly at him. Never mind. I've been told it stunts your growth anyway," he said. "I fall asleep a lot in school. It's not my fault. My brain just turns off when it gets bored. A trick I discovered, when I remember to use it, is to wear a rubber band around my wrist and snap it right when I feel myself drifting off to sleep. The sting keeps me conscious for a good 5 minutes, guaranteed." They were puzzled by his proposal. "Look, it isn't rocket science solution, but it works," Connor said. "And your people could do it themselves, so you wouldn't be forcing them into anything. And maybe if they did it enough, they eventually wouldn't need to anymore." They still needed convincing. Connor turned to Alex for help. "Alex, do you have any rubber bands with you?" Connor asked. "I may have some hair ties in my bag," Alex said. She put her bag on the floor and searched through it, accidentally knocking the glass slipper onto the floor. The clink echoed through the throne room. The twins panicked. It was as if time had frozen. Sleeping Beauty, her husband, and the advisor grew very tense. "How did you get that?" Sleeping Beauty asked. "It's Queen Cinderella's glass slipper," the advisor said. "No, it's not what you think," Alex said, quickly putting it back in her bag. "We didn't steal it," Connor said. "Guards!" King Chase shouted. A few guards suddenly awoke and became alert. "Seize them!" the king shouted. "Here we go again," Connor said as the guards sprinted toward them. He grabbed Alex's wrist and pulled her into a run. "Your Majesty," Alex pleaded to Sleeping Beauty, "we've come to borrow your spindle. We're collecting objects for the wishing spell." Sleeping Beauty stood about to speak, but the twins couldn't wait around to hear what she had to say. They were running around the throne room in circles, barely missing the extended hands of the guards trying to grab hold of them. Alex and Connor ran through a set of open doors leading out of the throne room. They had no idea where they were going, but they knew they had to move. They had been through too much to let guards catch them this time. "I'm so tired of being chased," Connor yelled. They ran down hallway after hallway, making sharp turns whenever they could to throw off the guards. They were moving so fast that the beautiful architecture and artwork of the castle was nothing but a blur. Suddenly, the hallway they were in came to a dead end. "Now what are we going to do?" Alex asked. "Quick, in here," Connor said, and pulled her through the closest set of open doors. They found a stone staircase on the other side and ran up it. It spiraled higher and higher, and the twins wondered if it would ever end. They were climbing to an impossible height. They must have been headed to the tallest tower in the castle. They reached the very top of the stairs and found a big black door. They rushed through it and immediately locked it from the other side. "Now where are we?" Connor asked and looked around. The twins were standing in a large, round room with tall windows. There were violet drapes and a lavender rug. A balcony wrapped around the entire room outside. Only 2 pieces of furniture were in the room: an enormous bed and a spinning wheel made from dark wood. "Connor," Alex said softly, "I think we're in Sleeping Beauty's room, the room she slept in for 100 years. Connor walked over to the bed. There was a beautiful engraving on the headboard that said, "For 100 years she slept. The hearts of her people she kept. So they awaited with patience for the bliss of true love and true love's first kiss." Alex went to the spinning wheel, but the spindle was gone. "The spindle isn't here," Alex said. "I don't understand. The man who wrote the journal promised Sleeping Beauty he would return it after he used it." "Is it not here, or did he just not return it because the spell didn't work?" Connor asked. The lock on the black door began to rattle as someone from the other side unlocked it. "Hide!" Alex whispered. She and her brother dove underneath the bed. The black door swung open. The twins expected to see the clunky boots of the guards, but instead they saw a pair of pink heels. "Is that—" Alex whispered. "Is that what—" Ouch! Connor hit his head hard on the bottom of the bed. "You can come out from there," Sleeping Beauty said. The twins couldn't tell if it was a trap. "I've called off the guards," Sleeping Beauty added. "No one is going to hurt you." The twins slowly crawled out from under the bed. "We didn't steal the slipper," Alex said. "It's hard to explain, but I promise we're not thieves." Sleeping Beauty nodded. "I believe you." "You do?" Connor asked. He was stunned. "Because if I were you, I'd totally think we were thieves." Sleeping Beauty smiled at them and took a seat on the bed. "So you two are after the wishing spell." The twins nodded. "It's a really long story," Connor said. "I'm sure," Sleeping Beauty said. "And you've come to ask me permission to borrow the spindle for my spinning wheel, haven't you?" The twins nodded again. Sleeping Beauty laughed to herself. "You know, not too long ago, a man came to my castle and asked me to borrow it," she said. "At first, I was completely against the idea, but he convinced me." "How'd he manage that?" Alex asked. "He told me all about the wishing spell and how he had traveled to another world and fallen in love and was desperate to return. And being somewhat romantic myself, I let him humor me with the story," she said, and her smile faded back to the expression they had first seen. "And then he started describing this world to me, a place of machines and technology, a place of enormous structures and lands and people unlike any I had ever seen, and I believed him." "Why?" Alex asked. "Because I had dreamed about this place," Sleeping Beauty said. "It's complicated and even I don't understand it, but while I was under that horrible spell, I dreamed about the place he was describing. I dreamed about so many things I had just assumed it had come from my imagination. I never mentioned a word of it to anyone, so I knew he had to be telling the truth." "Did he ever return it?" Alex asked, desperate to know. "Did the spell work for him?" Sleeping Beauty studied the twins' faces. "You're from there, aren't you?" she asked. "And you're trying to find a way home." Alex and Connor didn't have to respond. She already knew it was true. She reached under one of the pillows on the bed and withdrew a metal spindle. The twins felt their spirits soar. There it was! The man had returned it. The spell must have worked for him. "All I'm going to ask in return is that you also return it when you're done," Sleeping Beauty said, and handed it to Alex, "as I'm sure you can imagine it has sentimental value for me." The twins were beaming. Now they knew getting home was a possibility, and they weren't trapped in the land of stories forever. "We're just a couple of strangers," Alex said. "Why are you being so kind to us?" "There are many things that are out of my control," Sleeping Beauty said, and her smile faded again. "So I like to help as much as I can when I can." She stood and walked outside onto the balcony. The twins followed her. Although the kingdom wasn't in the best condition, the view was spectacular. Alex and Connor could see the entire kingdom and parts of others. The ocean sparkled in the distance, and a beautiful waterfall could be seen in the mountains nearby. It was so beautiful they forgot how high up they were. "This used to be the most beautiful of all the kingdoms," Sleeping Beauty said. "The rolling green hills, the wildflowers, the rivers that used to flow, they're all just memories now. Even the natural beauty of the land was put to rest under that awful curse." "Will things ever get better?" Alex asked. "I certainly hope so," Sleeping Beauty said. "Can I tell you a secret?" she asked the twins, receiving eager nods. "I haven't slept since Chase awoke me with the kiss." The twins were shocked. "Yikes," Connor said. "You must be exhausted." "After sleeping for a century, I'll be quite rested for a while," Sleeping Beauty said. "I promised myself and I promised this kingdom that I wouldn't rest until it was restored to its original state. Had my parents just let me die, as the curse intended, none of this would have happened. So I'm prepared to spend the rest of my life making things right again." Alex and Connor felt sorry for the young queen. They'd always been so distracted by the thought of a cursed sleeping kingdom, they'd never thought about the responsibility a queen would face putting it back on its feet. "I suppose that's why the wishing spell has always intrigued me," Sleeping Beauty said. "It's proof that if someone wants something enough and they're willing to work for it, they can achieve great things. I keep the spindle as a reminder that even the worst curses cast by the most powerful enchantresses can eventually be overcome." "The kingdom is very lucky to have a queen like you," Alex said. "A weaker person would have given up." "Try the rubber band trick," Connor told her. "I promise you won't regret it." "I will," Sleeping Beauty smiled. "It's probably time you headed out. I may believe you, but convincing my husband and the royal advisor of your innocence won't be easy. Follow me, I know a secret way out of the castle." The twins left the castle feeling inspired by Sleeping Beauty. The fairy tale had always romanticized the bravery of the young prince and the horror of the curse that had been cast upon the land, but it failed to mention what a strong and brave woman Sleeping Beauty truly was. And there ends Chapter 14. I hope you tune in to my next recording of Chapter 15. Have a good day.